The mahogany-paneled walls of my father's study seemed to close in as he paced back and forth, his face red with anger. The evening sun cast long shadows through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the scene feel even more dramatic than it already was. A startup? He spat the word like it was poison. You want to leave the family business for some tech fantasy? My name is Michael Chen, and at 25 I was about to be disowned for daring to have dreams beyond running Chen International, the shipping empire my great-grandfather had built. It's not a fantasy, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the tension knotting my stomach. The shipping industry is changing. If we don't adapt to digital transformation. Enough. My father slammed his hand on his desk, making the family photos rattle. For 4 generations, Chen International has operated the same way. We build relationships, we shake hands. We don't need fancy computers to tell us how to run our business. My mother sat quietly in a corner, her hands folded in her lap, her face a mask of careful neutrality. She hadn't said a word since I'd announced my plans to leave and start my own logistics technology company. The world is changing. I tried again. Look at our competitors. They're all investing in automation, AI-driven routing. They're fools, my father interrupted, chasing trends while we maintain tradition. Your brother understands this. William knows the value of our legacy. Ah yes, William. My older brother who had never questioned anything, who followed our father's every command without hesitation. The perfect hair. William doesn't understand innovation, I said. He's too afraid to challenge anything. My father's face darkened. And you think you know better. You think your little computer programs can replace decades of experience. I pulled out my laptop, opening the presentation I'd spent months preparing. Just look at the numbers. Our market share has dropped 15% in the last 2 years. Our operating costs are 30% higher than our competitors. If we don't adapt. Enough, he roared, slamming the laptop shut. I won't hear any more of this nonsense. You have a choice, Michael. Either you take your place in this family and this company, or you leave. There is no middle ground. I looked at my mother, hoping for support, but she just stared at her hands. I had always been her favorite, the one who shared her love of books and ideas. But when it came to standing up to my father, she was always silent. Then I'll leave, I said quietly. The room went still. Even the air seemed to freeze. What did you say? My father whispered, his voice dangerous. I'm leaving. I've already secured seed funding. I have a team ready to. Get out. His voice was ice cold now. If you walk out that door, you are no longer my son. No trust fund, no connections, no family name. I stood slowly, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. The family name won't matter when I build something of my own. You ungrateful, he sputtered, but I was already walking to the door. Michael, my mother finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Please think about this. I turned back one last time. I have thought about it, for years. While you all were living in the past, I was planning for the future. My father's face was purple with rage. You'll fail. Without this family, without our connections, you're nothing. I smiled, though my heart was breaking. We'll see about that. That night, I packed everything I could fit into my car. My laptop, some clothes, and most importantly, the detailed business plans and prototypes I'd been developing in secret for the past 2 years. As I drove away from the mansion I'd grown up in, I glanced in my rearview mirror. My mother stood at the window, a pale figure in the darkness. She raised her hand slightly, a ghost of a goodbye. I didn't wave back. The first few months were harder than I'd ever imagined. The seed funding I'd secured, modest compared to what I could have had with family support, stretched thin as I built my team and developed our first prototype. Logitech Solutions wasn't just about making shipping more efficient. I wanted to revolutionize the entire industry, creating an AI-driven platform that could optimize routes, predict maintenance needs, and automate the countless manual processes that made traditional shipping companies like Chen International so inefficient. I rented a tiny office in a rundown building in Seattle's tech district. My team consisted of 4 other believers, programmers and logistics experts who shared my vision of dragging the shipping industry into the 21st century. You really think we can compete with the big players? Jake, my lead developer, asked one late night as we debugged our first major release. I looked at the Seattle skyline through our grimy window. We're not competing with them. We're going to make them obsolete. 6 months after I left home. Our first client signed on, a small regional shipping company tired of losing business to larger competitors. Within weeks, their efficiency increased by 40%. The success brought our first round of serious investor interest. I worked 18-hour days, surviving on coffee and determination. Every time exhaustion hit, I thought of my father's words, "You'll fail." Those words became fuel. 1 year to the day after I'd walked out of my father's study, I received an email from my mother. The subject line read simply, "News." Inside was a link to an article about Chen International. The company had posted its worst quarterly results in 20 years. The stock was down 35%. At the bottom, she'd written, "Your father won't admit it, but you were right. Please come home." I deleted the email without responding. Instead, I channeled my energy into expansion. Logitech's client base grew steadily, each success proving what I'd known all along. The industry was desperate for innovation. 18 months after launching, we secured our series of funding, $20 million from venture capitalists who recognized the potential of our platform. The day after the announcement, William called. "Look, Michael," he said, his voice carrying that familiar condescending tone. "You've had your fun playing entrepreneur, but it's time to come back. Father is willing to discuss terms." I laughed. "Terms? You mean surrender?" "Don't be dramatic. The family business is dying." I cut him off. "And you know it. But instead of adapting, you're all clinging to the past. We have traditions. Traditions won't save you when you're bankrupt." He was quiet for a moment. "You've changed, little brother." "No," I corrected him. "I've just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not." After I hung up, I stared at my reflection in my office window. I had changed, but not in the way William meant. I was stronger now, more confident. Success built on my own terms had given me something my family's wealth never could: belief in myself. 3 years after leaving home, Logitech Solutions had grown beyond anything I'd imagined in those early days. Our Seattle headquarters now occupied 3 floors of a gleaming downtown office building, housing over 200 employees. Our platform was being used by shipping companies in 12 countries, and our valuation had hit $500 million after our Series C funding. But success brought its own complications. Chen International is asking about our services again, Maya, my COO, said during our morning meeting. 3rd time this month. I looked up from the quarterly reports I'd been reviewing. Through official channels this time, or is my brother still trying to backdoor his way in? She smiled wryly. Both, actually. William called 3 board members personally, and their tech department submitted a formal inquiry. The irony wasn't lost on me. The company that had dismissed my tech fantasy was now desperately trying to access the very technology I created. "Same answer as always," I said. "They can get in line like everyone else." And the line was long. Our waiting list included some of the biggest names in global shipping, all eager to modernize their operations. Chen International's stubborn resistance to change had cost them dearly. Their market share had dropped to less than half of what it had been when I left. Later that afternoon, I was reviewing acquisition offers when my assistant buzzed me. "Mr. Chen, your mother is here." I froze. In 3 years, I hadn't seen any of my family face to face. Our only contact had been through occasional emails from my mother and William's increasingly desperate phone calls. "Send her in." She looked older than I remembered, more fragile somehow. Her designer clothes hung a bit loose, and there were new worry lines around her eyes. "Michael," she said softly, "you look well." "What are you doing here, Mom?" She sat down carefully in one of my visitor chairs, taking in the view of Seattle's skyline from my corner office. "Your father is sick," she said finally. "Heart problems. The doctors say stress." I kept my face neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that." "The company, it's not doing well. William is trying, but he's not equipped to handle modern business challenges," I finished, "because father never let him learn." She flinched. "We were wrong, Michael. About everything. Your father sees that now." "Does he? Or is he just desperate?" "Both, perhaps." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "He asked me to give you this." I took the envelope but didn't open it. "What is it?" "A proposal. The board wants to acquire Logitech. They're offering to make you CEO of both companies." I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet office. "They want to acquire us." With what money? Chen International stock has lost 60% of its value in 3 years. There were other assets, she said weakly, family holdings. No, I handed the envelope back unopened. I didn't build this company to have it absorbed back into the family business. Michael, please, your father made his choice 3 years ago. I cut her off. He chose tradition over innovation, pride over progress, William over me. Tears welled in her eyes. He was wrong. We were all wrong. But this isn't just about your father anymore. There are thousands of employees at Chen International, families who depend on those jobs. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city I'd made my new home. 3 years ago, I tried to warn him this would happen. I begged him to let me help modernize the company. He threw me out. You're right, she said. But does that mean all those people should suffer? I turned back to her. Open the envelope, Mom. She did, hands trembling slightly as she read the proposal. Her eyes widened. This is just a takeover. They're offering you nothing but the title. Exactly, they still think they can control me. I took the proposal and dropped it in my shredder. But I have a counter-offer. I pulled up a document on my tablet and handed it to her. As she read, her face paled. This would mean a complete restructuring, I said. Chen International becomes a subsidiary of Logitech. The entire board resigns, including Father and William. We modernize everything. Operations, management, culture. No more dynasty, no more tradition for tradition's sake. Your father will never agree. Then Chen International will fail. I sat back down. Those are the only options now, Mom. Evolution or extinction. She stood slowly, clutching her bag like a shield. You've become hard. No, I corrected her. I've become successful. On my own terms. I'll give him your terms, she said, moving toward the door. Then she paused. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I should have said that 3 years ago. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about legacy and change. My great-grandfather had built Chen International from nothing, just as I built Logitech. But somewhere along the way, my father's generation had forgotten that maintaining a legacy meant adapting, not just preserving. My phone buzzed, a text from William. Just heard Mother's report. You can't be serious with these terms. I typed back, completely serious. You have 48 hours to decide. Then I turned back to my work. I had built something too valuable to compromise, too important to sacrifice for family pride. The next move was theirs. The Chen International Board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a rainy Seattle morning. I hadn't set foot in their headquarters since leaving 3 years ago, but as I walked through the familiar marble lobby, I felt no nostalgia, only quiet determination. Mr. Chen, the receptionist said, doing a double take at seeing me. They're waiting in the main boardroom. I nodded, heading for the elevators. My team of executives and lawyers followed, each carrying tablets loaded with our proposal and implementation plans. The boardroom fell silent as I entered. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, old men in expensive suits who had watched me grow up, who had dismissed my ideas, and who now sat facing the consequences of their resistance to change. My father sat at the head of the table, looking smaller than I remembered. His face was gray, and his hands trembled slightly as he gripped his water glass. William sat beside him, jaw clenched tight. Michael, my father said, his voice lacking its usual thunder. Thank you for coming. I took my seat at the opposite end of the table, directly facing him. Let's begin. For the next 2 hours, my team presented our restructuring plan in meticulous detail. The numbers were undeniable. Chen International's valuation had dropped to $200 million, while Logitech was now worth $2 billion. Our technology had become the industry standard, while their traditional methods were bleeding money. This is highway robbery, one board member sputtered as we outlined the terms. You want us to just hand over control? No, I said calmly. I want you to save this company before it's too late. The choice is yours. William leaned forward. And what happens to the Chen family legacy? The real legacy, I replied, was innovation. Great-grandfather built this company by embracing new ideas, new technologies. Somewhere along the way, you all forgot that. My father hadn't spoken throughout the presentation. Now he looked up, meeting my eyes for the first time. You were right, he said quietly. The room went still. 3 years ago, you tried to tell me this would happen. I was too proud to listen. He pushed back from the table slightly, too afraid of change to see that you were protecting our legacy, not destroying it. William started to protest, but our father held up a hand. Enough, William. Your brother built something extraordinary while we clung to the past. It's time to accept that. He turned to address the board. I moved to accept Logitech's proposal in full, including the leadership changes. The vote was close, but in the end, survival instinct won out over pride. By noon, the papers were signed. Chen International would become a division of Logitech Solutions, with a complete restructuring to follow. As the board members filed out, my father remained seated. I stayed too, sensing he had more to say. Your mother told me something interesting, he said finally. She said you've been quietly buying up Chen International stock for the past year, that you could have launched a hostile takeover months ago. I nodded. I could have, but you waited. Why? Because I wanted you to choose change. Real change doesn't work if it's forced. He smiled sadly. When did you get so wise? When I had to build something on my own, without the family name to rely on. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years of conflict and missed opportunities hanging between us. I stepped down as CEO, effective immediately, he said. The doctors say I need to reduce stress. I know, it's in the agreement. He stood slowly, straightening his tie out of habit. Will you take care of them? The employees, I mean. Some have been with us for decades. That was always the plan, I said. We're not destroying Chen International, we're evolving it. Anyone willing to embrace change will have a place. He nodded, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Your great-grandfather's watch. He wore it when he signed his first shipping contract. He placed it on the table. It belongs to you now. I picked up the watch, feeling its weight. Thank you. No, he said, moving toward the door. Thank you for saving us from ourselves. After he left, I sat alone in the boardroom where I'd once been told my dreams were worthless. Through the windows, I could see both company buildings, the classical architecture of Chen International and the modern glass tower of Logitech. My phone buzzed with a message from Maya, town hall meeting at 3 p.m. to announce the merger. Both companies' employees, you ready? I looked at the watch in my hand, then at the Seattle skyline that had witnessed my journey from outcast to savior. Ready, I replied. The town hall was packed. Over 1,000 employees from both companies, all anxious about their futures. I stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces. Change is never easy, I began. Trust me, I know. 3 years ago, I left everything I knew because I believed change was necessary. Today, we're not just merging two companies. We're merging two visions of the future. I saw my father and mother sitting in the back, William beside them. They were no longer the power brokers they once were, but maybe they could be something better. Family. Some of you know me as the rebel who left Chen International. Others know me as the founder of Logitech. Today, I'm both. And together, we're going to build something extraordinary. The applause was tentative at first, then grew stronger. Change was coming, and this time, everyone could feel its potential. That evening, as the sun set over Seattle, I stood in my office looking at the two buildings that were now both mine. My assistant brought in a package, my old nameplate from Chen International, saved by my mother all these years. I placed it beside my Logitech nameplate, a bridge between past and future. My phone buzzed with a text from William. I was wrong about you. We all were. Cocky sometime. I smiled as I typed back, tomorrow. I'll show you what the future looks like. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. It's about transforming it into something better. I hadn't just proven my father wrong. I'd made his company stronger. I hadn't just succeeded. I created a legacy that honored both innovation and tradition. The watch on my wrist ticked steadily, marking time's inevitable march forward. Change would always come. The only choice was whether to fight it or lead it. I had chosen to lead. And now, finally, my family was ready to follow.